After having his middleweight title stripped away by longtime rival Alex Pereira, Izzy and his coach Eugene Behrman are refusing to back down. They're both confident and think the belt will soon return to its previous owner. And while the entire fight world thinks the last stylebender should get an immediate shot at lost gold, Darren Till doesn't see him winning back his title. Keep watching this video for more on both stories. First up, quietly confident about the rematch. This is the third time Adesanya has lost a fight against the Poetan, and you'd reckon he'd sort of give up by now. 3 times he's danced with the Brazilian and failed. He came super close to ending the curse at UFC 281, but Alex managed to do some serious damage in the last moments of the fight. But despite the outcome, Izzy's coach Eugene Behrman is confident his fighter will run through Pereira and win back the title. Eugene and his fighter have handled the loss with utmost grace, and while everyone continues to talk down about the matchup, they're both quietly confident about the rematch. We're quietly confident. You gotta understand, we were winning that fight relatively comfortably. He's right about that. Izzy had it in the bag, and had he not taken damage to his leg in the first round of the fight, he could have easily escaped that last sequence of punches thrown by the Poetan. But yeah, credit to Alex for being able to stay so calm and composed even while being down on the judges' scorecard. He took a lot of damage, and if we're being honest, Adesanya looked much better throughout the fight. He went in there with a clear strategy and kept chipping at the Brazilian, but ended up falling short with just a couple of seconds left on the clock. And as for the rematch, there hasn't been any update yet, but considering how the last stylebender literally ruled the middleweight division for so long, he deserves an immediate rematch to win back his title. Next, focusing on the bigger picture. Now, there's no doubt in our mind Izzy was dominating and would have the fight in the bag if it had gone to the judges. But did you guys notice how Alex wasn't panicking even when the fight went deep into the 5th round? His corner probably told him how he's pretty much out of the fight, and only a stoppage win could save him at this point. But even when the 5th round started, Pereira was composed, and instead of panicking, he waited for the perfect moment to unleash his attack. He cornered Adesanya against the cage and landed some devastating blows, prompting the referee to jump in and stop the fight. Coach Eugene thinks that's the major reason why he was able to walk out of the octagon with a belt wrapped around his waist that night. Instead of panicking or giving up, he focused on the bigger picture, and that was getting a knockout victory. Well, a technical knockout, but he's not complaining. At the end of the day, he's the champion, and that's all that matters to him. But from Izzy's point of view, there's a lot to build on. Since Alex has a fairly simple game plan of getting a knockout, Izzy can easily negate that by doing a better job at controlling the distance without getting his teeth smashed in. It's definitely not going to be an easy task, since the Poetan is excellent at setting things up. But with a little caution and some adjustments, the belt is well within the Nigerian's reach. Moving on, it was a fair stoppage. A lot of people, including Izzy himself, thought match referee Mark Goddard jumped in too soon. Even when it happened, Adesanya looked super confused and thought he could have recovered after taking those deadly hits. But if you ask us, we're glad Mark was alert and called things off before he seriously got hurt. Pereira was connecting, and Izzy probably felt like he was getting hit by a train at the time, but with so much on the line, he thought he could get out of the way and survive for a bit more to win the fight by decision. But fortunately, Behrman stepped in to clear things up, thanking Mark for stopping the fight and preventing their boy from getting hurt. He got all biological, talking about how the body or head isn't designed to take so much damage. That too, when it's all irreversible. It was a really good decision to call off the fight, since Izzy walked out of there on both his feet, fully aware of where he was. And that's why I said I was happy with the stoppage. And at the end of the day, we live to fight another day. But with that being said, Eugene still thinks Izzy could have made some sort of recovery, but it would have been very dangerous. Had Alex connected a couple more of those brutal jawbreakers, it would have been lights out for the Nigerian, and not to mention a much more embarrassing loss to his arch nemesis. It also perfectly set up the rematch, since he didn't get knocked out and was actually winning the fight. Now for, does he have his number? Let's get real here, guys. Does Alex have Izzy's number? No, really. Is he unbeatable? Because technically speaking, this isn't like a trilogy fight or something. They've faced each other 3 times now, and the result has been the same. It would be understandable if the scores were at 2 fights to 1 or something, but he's literally 3 down. Wouldn't he have beaten him by now if that were to happen? And we're going to be honest with you. We like Adesanya. He's super entertaining and charismatic outside the octagon too. But is it time he closed this whole Alex Pereira chapter? He's 3 3 down now, and just imagine for a second if he ends up losing the rematch as well. What then? He's going to be 4 down, and we're not mathematicians, but being 3 down is much better than 4-0. But Izzy is a true warrior. He refuses to give up, and if you've watched some of our videos in the past, then you probably remember how we've mentioned this a billion times. That fight when he's telling his opponents he's unbeatable because he's ready to die gives us the chills every single time. He even made an appearance on the Flagrant podcast and talked about how he's never going to settle until he gets a win over the Poatan. Even if he's 60 and has to walk using a stick to his front porch, he'll still do it because he needs to break the curse. And more importantly, because he thinks he has the Brazilian's number locked in now. Following up, a pointless rematch. It's funny how out of everyone at the UFC, it's Darren Till who doesn't see the 4th fight playing out any differently. We're not trying to throw any shade at him, but we seriously think he needs to focus on winning a fight himself before talking about the last stylebender. Till hasn't won a fight in so long now as he's like 1-5 in his last 6 fights. But yeah, forget all that. Let's talk about what he had to say about Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya 4. While he thinks a rematch between the two titans is inevitable, he doesn't see things playing out any differently for the Nigerian, and that's mainly because he's failed to make much of an impact in the first 3 fights. That's pretty much what we've been saying as well. If Adesanya was to beat him, wouldn't he have done it by now? 3 fights are a lot to learn from your mistakes. Make adjustments, devise a foolproof strategy, and dominate. Or at least that's how it looks on paper, right? Till still thinks a 4th fight is worth it though, since Izzy has been such a dominant force at the UFC. It wouldn't be right on Dana's part to not give him a rematch because, let's face it, before Alex arrived at the scene, things were pretty monotonous. A fighter would climb the rankings, fight Adesanya, get punished, and that's about it. Whitaker was perhaps the only guy capable of knocking him off the throne, but before the Poatan, Izzy was unbeatable. Up next, mixed signals. We might have been a bit harsh on Darren, but we did say one thing that made a lot of sense. We can't exactly call it mixed signals, but it's something like that, since Izzy is pretty good at making us believe Alex is beatable. Or, look at it this way, let's forget about the first 2 fights, since the Poatan won them comfortably. Let's focus on their most recent fight at UFC 281. Izzy was winning throughout the fight, and like we said before, he had it bagged if it went to the judges. Everyone watching the fight had just seen Adesanya prove his game, but it all changed the very next minute. He lost the fight along with the middleweight title. The last stylebender came so close to winning, and that's why Darren thinks it has to do with a mental block or something. No matter how hard he tries, he just can't cross the finish line. Throughout the fight, we saw him winning, but he slipped when it mattered the most. He controlled the first 4 rounds, and it broke our hearts to watch him fall short with just a few seconds left on the clock. And that's not bad luck or anything, and it's not discrediting Alex either. It's simply the fact that Izzy just can't beat the Brazilian. No matter what he does, Pereira has his number, and that's how it's going to be for the 4th fight as well. Or at least that's what Darren thinks. We beg to differ. We think Izzy has what it takes to put him away. Last but not least, he's not durable. Izzy's former opponent, Paulo Costa, came up with a really neat theory about why he keeps losing against the Poatan. It doesn't have anything to do with having his number or something. It's simply because Adesanya isn't durable. See, guys like Alex, they can take a hit, but Izzy, he's not durable. We do agree with that to some extent, but we'd much rather see them fight for a 4th time around instead of buying into all the opinions. That's it from our side, folks. So what do you think? Can Israel Adesanya beat Alex Pereira in a high-voltage rematch for the featherweight title? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos in the future. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.